Hey everyone, just want to take a quick moment and let you know of a few ways you can help support the show. First, you can like this video and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy the content we're putting out. Share this episode with other creatives and help spread the word. Next, you can go to creativesideup.com. That'll take you over to our Ko-fi page where you have the ability to drop us a few bucks and help support independent creators like myself so we can bring you more episodes and feature even more creatives. Additionally, you can go to anchor.fm/Edgeline Studios and have access to everywhere the podcast is available. And if you'd like, you can tap the support button and become a supporter with a small monthly donation to help sustain future episodes. Finally, follow us on Instagram at CreativeSideUpPod. Join the conversation, send us a voice message. Share your story with us. We want to know, what do you do creatively and what inspires you to do it? Your message could be featured on an upcoming episode of Creative Side Up. So thank you for all your support, and now back to the show. Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Creative Side Up. My name is Tim Olson. Thanks for joining us. This is the show that unpacks creative minds. Today my guest is stand-up comedian Allie Lindsay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Ba, 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 boop.
1, 2, all right.
Wow, what a swallow it sounds like on this.
This is like an interrogation. Don't ask me that question ever again, okay? All right. Allie, I got to say, we've recorded many podcasts already off camera. Just now. Just now. At least 3 episodes off camera with nothing recording.
We have nothing to talk about now. So it was nice to see you. Thanks so much for coming. This has been great. Have a wonderful day.
Are you being serious? Is this it? We're done?
I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of over it now at this point.
All right. Well, let's keep going a little bit. Let's see what we can do.
Yeah, let's try anyway. Let's see what.
All right. Well, we can do whatever we want. This is
maybe we've got a second wind in us.
I hope so.
I think we have many wins.
That's what that gulp was. That was literally a big gulp, you know. I got to say, looking at your Instagram, and not as someone who's a Instagram stalker of sorts, I'm more of an Instagram connoisseur.
Oh, sure.
If I want to put it in that phrasing. But it's been really fun watching you grow as a comedian and just the adventures that you've been a part of. As you expand on your skill of being a stand-up.
Yeah.
And there's some posts to me that I'd love to hear a little story behind.
Oh, that's fun. Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, I mean, one being, and maybe you can speak to this, starting out being a stand-up comedian, some of the places you get to perform, because one would think that a comedian should only be performing in a theater or a club or on stage somewhere. You think there should be a stage where
that's what most of the world I think probably envisions.
And really any performance art for that matter.
True.
Unless you're on the street busking or doing something, but I don't know any stand-ups that are busking on the street.
True.
So, but anyway, getting back to your post, there's one post of you in a tobacco shop.
Oh, yes.
Doing an actual stand-up show.
Yeah.
It's not like you're there just for fun. It looked like you were doing an actual show.
Yeah.
At a tobacco shop where people are buying cigars and
smoking cigars.
Yeah. What's the story behind that?
Oh man, I know. Well, it is one of the more unique places that I have done stand-up. This was just a few weeks ago in December in Milwaukee, a couple doors down from what's the big theater there where everything happens?
Pabst?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. It
Riverside.
wasn't the Pabst. It was a Riverside. It's a couple doors down from the Riverside.
All right.
It's Yuli's Tobacco Shop. They've been in for like 100 years.
Yeah.
And oftentimes what happens, and I think what happened in this case, is that people who have businesses or just a lot of people, whenever we do a weird, unique show in a unique space, it's because a person that is affiliated with a certain business just likes comedy. Mm-hmm. And it's a pretty easy setup, right?
Yeah. There's a guy at a tire shop who also likes comedy.
That's true.
Well, I mean, we're joking about it, but Allie's actually performing at Al's Tires next week. So
come on out. I'll be standing on at least 5 tires.
The tobacco shop.
The tobacco shop.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I had heard about it. They do a monthly show, and I hadn't.
Is it always stand up?
There. It's always stand up, and I don't know how long it's been running, but yeah. So I heard that we were going to be behind the tobacco counter.
Yeah.
And so that night, I don't know if you can see on the floor over there, I have what I call my huggin stool.
Oh, yeah.
It just sits like 8 inches off the ground.
Right. And if we were to describe this is like, it looks like something maybe an old woodworker would have carved back in.
Just a little four-legged stool for foot propping.
But that is a nice stool. I mean, don't
it's
downplay
nice and
it.
square. I won't.
Okay.
It's my huggin stool.
And the audience will never get a chance to see it.
No, you have to come hug me on it.
Right.
It's perfect since I'm only 5 feet tall. That's being generous.
Okay.
I can stand on it and hug
Sure.
more easily. But I brought that to Milwaukee with me.
You lugged it all the way to Milwaukee.
I took it to Milwaukee because I was like, I have to stand behind a counter. And I kind of wanted to make fun of myself and like just elevate myself a little more. They actually put up a platform in a stage.
I saw that. The picture did have a little platform
But I
on
used
it.
my huggin stool to be my step up to that. I was hosting that night, so I had to go up there quite a lot. So I used it as my step stool.
Was there a mic? It looked
There
like
was a mic.
Okay, because in the photo, I maybe I didn't see it right, but it looked like you were just speaking, just like standing on a stool and speaking.
I looked like I was floating. No, there was a stage back there. So and people could buy tickets that included like a cigar, and so it was smoky in there.
Yeah.
But it was kind of fun to also be smoking a little cigar while doing it. It just felt, so many people, especially if you've loved comedy for a long time. I mean, the initial who doesn't long for the gritty, dirty, smoky to basement of a club? So this it wasn't quite that, but at least you're like.
I mean, it wasn't a club. It was a tobacco store. There were people coming in, buying things.
Like expensive Cubans.
And by the way, people coming in buying things, not knowing that there's a show going on.
Oh, for sure. Everyone was leaving the holiday concert from the Riverside.
Yeah.
We're walking by and looking in the windows. At any rate, that's just one of the unique places I've done some stand up. So yeah. Anyway.
Well, I mean, it's interesting because now, hang on, how many years have you been doing stand-up now?
Just about a little over 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
And actually, that's a good place to go. Let's go back. You were interested in stand-up before you started, or?
Yeah, for a really long time.
For a really long time.
Yeah, probably. Okay. Yeah, I studied theater in college and was always like so this is like the late 90s.
Mm-hmm. I was watching a lot of Nickelodeon.
I bet. I was watching Friends.
Slap bracelets were just going out of style.
Oh, neat. Out of style?
Out of style.
Oh, man. Well, yeah.
And by the way, I see there's a lot of slap bracelets over there.
Oh, my gosh.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know. We were talking about the stool. I don't know what else off camera we can talk about.
So I began doing theater, and actually even farther back than that, I grew up. My grandparents founded our local community theater where I'm from in Illinois. So just sort of been exposed to performance or whatever from a super small town in Illinois. But anyway, I did go to college for theater, and then one of the last shows I did in my college career, I wasn't just like this small bit part of the fat funny neighbor. I was really fat in college, by the way. So I wasn't just like the funny. I had like a substantial role in a 2-woman play where we played many characters, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, I like this. I like being able to do different voices, different characters. Like I felt that I was funny. I felt that I was valuable and worthy, not just like some potential side character. And then so again, this is the late 90s. I found myself the later I was in college that I was like leaving bars and parties to go home to watch Comedy Central's half-hour comedy, all of those things, like whatever it was. I didn't know, this is pre-internet. I was probably watching Marin and everybody else. Like I didn't know anyone's names, but I was like, bye people. And I would go home and just like watch comedy. And I kind of started, definitely to develop like a desire for it.
And was it, so when you say you were doing community theater, was it the reaction from the audience? Was it the ability to play different characters, or a combination of all of that?
Definitely all of that. And that show that I was talking about was in the university theater. So I didn't do actually a lot of the community theater, but just some background affiliation and familial ties to just performance or whatever. But when I did that weekend of that show, just the laughs, I transformed. I almost like wasn't there. The buzz of laughs is just so great. And then I don't know how much I should continue on.
Well, I mean, in moving into stand-up comedy specifically, how are you? Other than you're watching it on TV, at what point there's got to be a point where either you just are funny or you're wondering if you can. When does it kind of kick in? Like this could be a thing.
Yeah, it's a lot. Well, it's a lot of
Yeah.
things. Like being a fat girl growing up, I kind of resigned that. I wasn't going to be the pretty one. I wasn't going to. I just naturally developed a sense of humor growing up, as most people do. I mean, this is an age-old fucking story about how anybody starts being creative, like you feel like shit in one aspect of your youth, and you compensate. So that happened
As like a protective mechanism.
Protective mechanism and an attractive mechanism.
Absolutely.
And so. So definitely, whenever I was a funny friend in high school, it was I was also the shithead and got kicked out of class a lot. So, it was kind of but yeah, the laughs, and in college, like I definitely loved to do comedies, and I was more attracted to that. I was probably seen as more of a comedic actor at that time.
Right.
And then when I realized that, I didn't have to just consider like, how was I not going to be the ingenue of a play, or how was I going to be in the entertainment world, and
more than just theatrical.
Because I love theater. I love live performance and all of that. But, I was a kid and I didn't know what the fuck I was going to do. I was like, I left college. I moved to Chicago. I lived there for a few years. And while there, I had some friends who were starting a theater company, as many do. And they have benefits. And so they had a benefit one night and I agreed to do stand-up for it.
And that
so
was
literally my very
first time doing stand-up. Here's a benefit show.
The Elbow Room in Chicago. Yeah.
The Elbow Room in Chicago.
I know.
The notable Elbow Room.
I was like 23.
Infamous.
Yeah. So it's like 20 years ago.
Right.
I know. So, and such a funny night that night too. I mean, it was hosted by a drag queen. There was, it was very theatrical. I get up to stage to do my 5 minutes or whatever it was.
5 minutes?
I don't even know. I don't even know.
5 minutes as your first time going up.
Who knows how long? It could have been 14 seconds. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, if that were me, that'd be a 5-minute rant.
Oh,
it'd be like, how much time? Oh, okay, 10 seconds.
I still have the chicken scratches of that set list, if I can call it. Anyway, I performed there that night. I didn't even know how to adjust a mic. I literally did my jokes from. I bent the mic down to me and looked up, and when I got done, my friends were like, "We saw up your nose the whole time." So I was like, "Oh," and I didn't do it again. I didn't do it again for various
reasons. It did deter you a little bit. It
didn't necessarily deter me. I just had a lot. When I lived in Chicago, it was overwhelming. I came from a small town. I had a lot going on. I was chicken shit.
But well, that's fine. I mean, first time going up, there's nothing wrong with that. But I mean, what was your feeling performing with in front of people? I mean, you obviously have already been doing it by that point, but
completely different when it's just you.
Completely different when it's just you and a mic on stage and telling what you've written and thought as funny as being jokes.
Yep.
And getting that response or no response back from the crowd. What is the feeling? Because you said it took you a while to perform again. Was it because of that night, or was it because you're not prepared, or you're going back and forth that should I do this? Should I not do this?
Just general I think I isolated that one incident and just didn't revisit it for a while. I mean, I think I also had a huge. SNL was huge in the 90s. And also Chris Farley was just such a huge, so many of the people from that cast of that time. But Chris Farley to me was like this icon, he was an icon for a lot of people, but for me as a heavy set, funny person who maybe isn't going to make it with her looks or whatever, I was absolutely obsessed with him, and I really wanted to do Second City. And then just bullshit from youth, meaning I wasn't necessarily raised to think that I could do whatever I wanted. And so I think I told myself that I probably couldn't do it, or I put it off so long because if I never started it, I wouldn't fail at it.
I mean, that's not so unique.
It's
a lot
not.
of people go through that, especially for myself. And this show actually is something I've been wanting to do for a long time. And with the same thought of going,
I'm just kidding.
Well, that's part of it. I mean, the thing is you're thinking there's so much great content out there. How am I going to contribute? What am I going to put to it that's a little bit different than everything else that's out there? And then you go through the thing where you're comparing yourself to other people, and it just happens, you know? She's dying right now. She's actually dying.
I was trying to swallow quietly.
Is this a bit? Is this one of your bits?
Yep.
She does this on stage, actually. This is a bit she does. This is a new
barf.
character. You should do that at your SNL audition. Yeah, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm too old.
So, I mean...
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Right. Well, this is going to be a great clip for the show. I'm going to put just this clip on Instagram. Yeah, this would be great.
But actually, just to me crying and no one will have any idea.
I just am saying that, starting something as simple as this as a podcast, which, by the way, you find out once you start doing it, how much work you want to put into it and what you want to make the product.
Yeah.
And that's with anything. But ultimately, you can't get around until you actually do. And I don't even know if I'm making sense what I'm saying. But in some way, it's like you're comparing yourself to other people. It's inevitable. You go through that.
Yep.
Especially at a younger age. And, it's not until you get that life experience that feel like at this point where I'm starting to have these, road bumps in life where they kind of contribute to who you are as a person and contribute to who you want to be moving forward, and also your career and what you actually want to do and what's worth your time.
That's it. That's 100% it. I mean, I'm going to just skip forward 15 plus years to me living in Madison and what actually, I've said this before in other podcasts or interviews, that what happened for me was that I was working a job that was sucking the life out of me. Like every ounce of anything that I was or, just absolutely drained. And I woke up one morning, this is in 4.5 years ago. Yeah. Whatever year that was. Yeah. 2015-ish. I woke up one morning and I was like, I have nothing to live for. I had no purpose. I had no reason to live. I wasn't excited. I didn't have there was nothing left except.
Yes.
That same desire to do stand-up comedy that had been sitting there for 15 years still was there when everything else was stripped away, and I didn't give a shit about anything else. That was the only thing that was left. And I was like, well, I think I got to quit my job.
So I did.
All of a sudden it became so important, so exciting that I did quit my full-time job with benefits. Found a job that wasn't gonna. It was just. Oops, sorry. Not frivolous, but not important.
Well,
whatever. I waited until it was important, but
still, it's a job you had for a long time and it sustained you. And when you walk away, speaking from my own experience, when you walk away from a job you've had for, in my case, more than 15 years. Oh my gosh. And when you start telling people what you did, their next question is, what are you going to do? And sometimes even before that, they go, wow, that's scary. And hearing that from your friends and your family going, well, come on, where's the support you've had all along? What's going on?
Well, and for me to actually just telling people or just even telling my bosses at my job that I want to do this other thing. This is such a Frank Summers thing to say that I'm about to say right
just
now. He's a mutual friend, but when you tell people your plans, you hold yourself to it a little bit more. And so, that was, part of the
responsibility.
A responsibility. And I'm like, this is something I want to do. And this, so I kind of went balls out. I was like, there's nothing left. I want to nurture this thing. Otherwise I have no purpose. So,
but also
I'm so happy to have had that shitty time in my life to see it and to give myself the space to start doing it at the balls, because literally I had nothing that was driving me or to live for so I needed that to see clearly this is something I can't live without being involved in.
Right.
And I'm tired of just daydreaming about it.
And now you want to make it happen for real.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad you said that, because it feels like if you're not willing to go after your passion and do what you want to do, then you do sit around going, what is all this for? How can I
Notebooks
decide
of
what's
ideas
next?
that you write down that are gonna what is it? Are they just there to die? You know?
Well, what's interesting is I did this thing. Hey, wait a minute. Just wait a minute. Hold that thought. Hold it. Hold
Holding
everything.
it.
When I was like you mentioned, watching Premium Blend and the half hour specials and the comedy specials, you don't know who these big people are on TV growing up. You're just watching, these big names, but you're watching it as probably as pure as you possibly could, because you're not looking at it as that's Wanda Sykes, or even when I was watching it, it was Mitch Hedberg at the time.
Yes, Mitch.
Going, I don't know who this guy is, but every once in a while he's on Conan O'Brien, or he's on doing a Premium Blend or something.
These people at the time.
No,
It was just like
they were just on.
Oh,
and when you watched it, you were laughing at the jokes, and you were laughing at something that was being said that wasn't based on who that person was.
Mm-hmm.
It was because they were saying something that you found true to either yourself, or they were saying something that was just so silly and outrageous that sparked something in you. And even that kind of reaction that I would have to those types of shows still affected and inspired me in what I want to do moving forward.
Yes.
And even though at the time you may not know it, that stuff kind of sits with you and builds your character for who you are later in life.
I also want to say, and I think that, this might tie into other things that the two of us might have in common or like be into.
Yeah.
But, I don't know how a year or 2 years or whatever prior to me actually starting to do stand-up, I was so incredibly influenced by the podcast platform that was newish at that time, or in my world, it was new. I started listening to Mark Maron's WTF podcast, and it allowed me. I mean, I've always been into documentaries and stories and things like that, but I'm such a boner for all of the documentary style content that is available now, and
there's so much content.
But especially then when there were only a few podcasts, and I was just absolutely obsessed with that. And when you listen to a story, or when you listen to people, it's easier than maybe just watching it on TV. But listening to this podcast and hearing him talk to other comics and they tell their stories, like I could start to see they're not just magic people who like snap a finger and they start doing like hearing other people's stories about their process, their progress, how they felt shitty about themselves, or they could, all the ups and downs.
Absolutely.
I was like, you mean I can fail and still do it, or I can be shitty and still do it, or I can, either way, I started to see that I could do it because other people were telling me how they did it. And
it's so helpful.
Game changer, changed my life.
I totally get that. Because before that, it becomes a point of seeing people who are already successful.
Yes.
And there wasn't an outlet, or, really, you could read someone's book if they wrote a book and kind of learn some behind the scenes of how it actually works. But in the case of Mark, where he's interviewing people and they're talking about details like to an obscure person's name, or a specific time they went on stage and something happened off stage and in the green room, and times that they bombed, auditions that they went on that didn't work out.
Totally.
All that stuff is extremely helpful.
Yeah, and
cathartic.
All of that, and I love it so much that we get to see so much more humanity now, instead of just the platforms, especially at that time being news outlets or late night talk shows where they have 5 minutes. They just want to highlight the good shit, and people look pretty and everything's,
They're
perfect.
advertising whatever they're there for.
Of course.
Yeah.
And so to have these platforms where people are talking about the dirt of things, I was like, oh, I'm just a human too, and so are they. And it just made humanized it, and made it just like seem like a possibility.
Yeah.
And also I'm like, well, what the hell's the harm of trying?
Do it.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Do it.
Oh my God. But what do you think of this, like where we're at with comedy today? I feel like we're in a really, I actually like where we're at with comedy today. We went through a little bit of a struggle there in the last couple of years, but it brought out some of the best material we've seen in a very long time.
Agreed. I think that there are both sides of this coin. You know,
I'm sure
as
you've had
there
this talk
always
many
is.
times.
Well, I've had the talk and I've
Yeah.
listened to this conversation. I don't know if
Many
I can
times,
talk
I'm
about
sure.
it better than anyone else has talked about it on any other podcast
Yeah.
or platform.
It always comes up.
But I think just for sake of ease, I'm going to talk about the female perspective because it could, you know, this conversation could be
It's your
just that
life.
alone could be 100 days long. But but being a female in comedy, now I don't even know what I want to say about it exactly. I think it's incredibly exciting right now. I think it's fucking exciting. I mean, I think that there is shit that's really hard. I think a lot of people are super concerned about stepping on toes. Shit's tricky. You feel like there's a dirtiness and a rawness that doesn't probably exist as much anymore because cameras and outside influencers or things leaking and you know whatnot. Podcasts or but people are definitely being more mindful about what comes out of their mouths. And I don't think it's always a bad thing, even though, you know, at my core, it's just like, it's the one true job in the world where you can say whatever the fuck you want. You can make fun of the president. You can do all these things. Who else in the world gets that privilege? But it comes with responsibility.
But should that affect what your
personal platform or like
well, should that affect what you're saying on stage? Should that I mean, you should just speak truth, should you not? You should speak what's true to you as a
yeah.
But at the same time, you know,
but some people's truths are fucked up.
But I mean, some of my truths are fucked up. True.
Right?
We get on stage and you say something that maybe is off-putting to the audience, and then within the next couple minutes, you're going to get them on board. Or not.
Right.
And that's up to the performer to decide.
Yep.
And move in that direction. But at the end of the day, you're making it funny. Make people laugh,
Hopefully.
right? You're going to try.
Hopefully, yeah.
You're going to try and do that.
For me, only being 4 years in, I haven't tested the waters too much on topics that are like too necessarily controversial. I have a few bits that lean in the direction of, you know, abortion and you know, other things, but I'm still learning how to tell a joke, how to write a joke, and so I'm not quite ballsy enough for like these long stream of consciousness, like political or, you know, anything that's like necessarily heavily political, especially because there are so many platforms. And again, once again, how could I say it better than Samantha Bee or whatever? So,
but
like,
it's about your voice. It's how you say it. It's through your eyes and how you are viewing things. So whether or not a comedian has the same premise as someone else shouldn't matter. It's through your eyes.
True enough.
It's the way that you experience that particular issue.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
Hey everyone, just want to take a quick moment and let you know of a few ways you can help support the show. First, you can like this video and subscribe to our channel if you enjoy the content we're putting out. Share this episode with other creatives and help spread the word. Next, you can go to creativesideup.com. That'll take you over to our Ko-fi page where you have the ability to drop us a few bucks and help support independent creators like myself so we can bring you more episodes and feature even more creatives. Additionally, you can go to anchor.fm/Edgeline Studios and have access to everywhere the podcast is available. And if you'd like, you can tap the support button and become a supporter with a small monthly donation to help sustain future episodes. Finally, follow us on Instagram at CreativeSideUpPod. Join the conversation, send us a voice message. Share your story with us. We want to know, what do you do creatively and what inspires you to do it? Your message could be featured on an upcoming episode of Creative Side Up. So thank you for all your support, and now back to the show. So the purpose of a comedian is to speak truth in some sense. There's always a sense when I watch comedy that can be very silly and over the top and not necessarily a reflection of truth. But I find that some of the comedians that I watch the most are somewhat mirroring the ridiculousness of society and what we're doing, and also speaking from true life in general. So how do you what's your approach to your style of comedy?
My approach to my style,
and maybe you're not so much in a headspace about it as you are just noticing things or writing about yourself, or
It's all pretty tricky. I mean, I've heard some people say who you are the first time you do stand up is closer to your persona than anything you think you might sort of be.
The first time.
I don't know. I shouldn't have quoted somebody I can't even quote.
Well,
I
you
think
just
it was
did.
like P.
Okay?
Holmes.
I
just did, and damn it, we need fact checkers. What was the question? Oh,
your approach to your style of comedy.
My style of comedy, I guess probably it's largely somewhat based off of the style of comedy I enjoy watching, and that's just how do you put into words how to describe your own style? I just
And again,
try
this
to
might be one of those things
we conversational, but it probably
Yes.
wasn't. It is, but it
Yes.
probably didn't begin like that because I'm working within a time restraint of 3 minutes. That's how much an open mic is. So when I first began, probably for the first year or two, literally my bits were scripted word for word because that's all I knew of having a theater background. Some people don't do that. Some people
Rehearsing.
list. Yeah, because you get a light at 3 minutes, you're done.
Yeah.
So like, what if I'm halfway through? So I sort of got used to like one page of dialogue is like, is 1 minute of, so I was so concerned at the beginning about all the small technical things that you have to get over, even pulling the mic out of the stand, holding the mic, getting adjusted to your own voice. It took me a minute to feel like me doing it because it still felt like an affect. It still kind of can sometimes.
And that's something that I don't even think about because, I've never done stand up before, but it's something I've wanted to at least try at some point.
Who doesn't? It's the coolest thing in the world.
People will say, hey, it's easy enough for people to say, hey, I could do that. But the things you were just talking about, like where do you pulling the mic out of the stand, moving the stand behind you so it's not in front of the stage in front of you. There's all these technical things that happen. And my thought is I want to try it. I want to try it. However,
I insist you do.
the idea just frightens me
It's
immensely.
scary.
The fact that I could have something to say that is going to make someone laugh, which people do in every day between their friends. But what you talk about with you and your friends that make each other laugh now tell to a whole room and make the whole room laugh.
Some of the funniest people in the world are not necessarily stand-up comics.
Right.
And vice versa, but it is scary, but it's also so exhilarating. Yeah. And if you watch a lot of comedy, I'm sure that you have some sense. You sort of, know what would work.
Let's try something interesting, okay?
Oh, are you going to ask me to improvise right now? Fuck.
No. I want to. So this is a rough bit that I've like a day ago just thought of. Okay.
Oh man, you're ballsy to just be doing this right now.
This is just a rough bit. No, I'm comfortable doing this because it's very childish, but also not based on my own real life. But it's just this observant thought, this random thought. Mm-hmm. So it's based on the bit is based on children's songs or nursery rhymes that we all know, or children's songs, A, B, C, D. We know that. We know Mary had we know that. There's one song in particular, I don't know why, but it popped into my head. Do you know the John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt song?
Yeah.
Where it's like John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt, his name is my name too. Whenever we go out, the people always shout, there goes John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yep.
So all fine and well as a children's song. It's fun, singing that. But if I take a second and kind of break that down, right? So, it's a John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. Okay. Weird name, fun song.
Yep.
Right? All right, let's keep going. His name is my name. No. How? How? That's impossible. That'd be like, if I were doing this on stage, I go, sir, what's your name? I go, Alan. Oh, really? That's my name too. Not weird. Not weird.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
All right, what's your name? John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. That's my name too. No, it's not happening. Okay? All right, let's keep going. Whenever we go... So they're together. They're together, right? And then it's basically just going along with it again. Whenever we go out, the people always shout, there goes John Jacob. So now people are shouting at you. Anyway, that's just a random thought, random bit.
Which is a cute platform for a bit, and a lot of people are doing
It's
it or have done it.
not related to my life in any way.
Nope.
Just a random thought that just popped
and that's
into
what
my...
I was going to mention that earlier when, we do speak our, it's funny because I feel like as comics, we speak our truth, or we're speaking the exact opposite of our truth. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because not everything I say, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
like,
and you still may be and not, you may still, but you are, you're
I mean,
growing
they're bombastic.
as an artist.
I might choose a bombastic,
Yeah. But a premise like that's something to me that I would do on stage because I'm comfortable sharing it because it is not my life that I'm sharing with the audience.
Exactly. Okay. So yes. Yep.
Right?
Yeah. So, and for me as well, actually for the last year and currently carrying over to this year's goals are to make my, are to focus more on my self and my jokes coming from a place of me. Not that they didn't before, but I want that even more because for me, when I write a joke that's close to me, number one, it's like easier to remember and sell and feel and believe and enjoy, but to dig that deep, to find those jokes is also
Well, and what do you want to share? What don't you want to share? And
it's
and
like
does the audience care? I mean, I know they care. They care because that's how you make them laugh, is by getting them on board with what you're saying. I
had a really unique kind of disgusting medical-ish thing happen to me in the last month, and I was gonna write a bit about it. My friends were like, "No."
Oh.
Do not talk about how that tampon was inside you for 2 months and you didn't know it.
Comic friends?
Yep.
Okay.
They're like, "Oh, I don't know if an audience wants to hear about your tampon being up there." And
I don't know.
Do
that.
I shouldn't be talking about it right here.
No, but wait a minute.
To me, I was like, what a unique, anyway.
Now,
but gross.
I'm not a stand-up comedian, and of course, I'm not one to be giving advice on stand-up comedy. But I would think, wouldn't you try the bit and see if there's anything there on stage?
Here's the thing.
Or is that totally not the right thing to do?
Well,
I don't even know.
Here's the other thing for me, and this is not I'm not talking about the, patriarchy or a male-dominated world, which it is, but it is, especially stand-up comedy, especially, in Madison. Statistically, there are a couple of female comics in this town. Our audiences, the audiences that I get to perform in front of during open mics during the week, and a lot of times the gig audience is heavily male dominated. I haven't had as many opportunities to do some of my heavy female material that I would fucking enjoy doing in front of more women. A lot of times I definitely will scout the room for how many women are in the audience who I can get on board with some of my more female shit. And that's just the way that it is. So I think I've a lot of times contoured my material to fit a broader audience, and I don't want to do that. I kind of compromise some of the things I want to talk about because I go to a Monday mic and there's not a single other female there. So I can say, Yeah, but you know how you feel when you get your period? I mean,
but can I?
No, I don't. So it's I don't even know how to work jokes sometimes because I don't have a female, I don't have my audience that I think that I sometimes need for that type of stuff.
Is that a perception of wanting to go on stage and know your audience versus telling your truth? Or is that, restricting certain ideas that you would otherwise share if there was a more balanced audience? But why wouldn't you, and this is a question for you as an artist, why wouldn't you just be the character that you're building yourself to be? Why wouldn't you say that? And again, I have no experience doing stand-up, so this is a great conversation. Cool. I think. Good. Because I want to hear why wouldn't you just be that character?
I don't make a mistake that I'm denying myself. I mean, to some degree, I suppose I just said that, so maybe I'm a hypocrite now. But in some ways, maybe I do but I know that there will be a time where this material will be relevant, or that I could pull it out if I ever, get sort of bigger and have a following of female audience members. But because I don't have it here, I'm not saying that I'm completely compromising who I am as a comic and writing bro jokes. Yeah. I have done a couple weed jokes on, at the comedy club or whatever, just because I know a younger audience might laugh. And that's just part of what you do, because you have to fucking do jokes will get laughs, because that will be what gets you booked later. So, I mean, there's just all of that element in there. I'm not just going to go out and do all these
There's a business
jokes about my
it.
tampon. If the audience is 95% male and they're not going to get on board, I'm going to make a different choice that night. And not because I don't think I'll ever get to say those words. I'm never worried that I'm not going to have an opportunity to say what I really want to say, because I know that exists, and that's what is so exciting about it still. So I feel like even in the meantime, I mean, I get asked to do clean shows. A lot of comics get asked to do clean shows.
Right,
I largely turn them down.
Yeah.
Or benefits or other, a lot of times people want clean comedy, and that's not me. So I straight up say no.
Right.
And that as a means to preserve me, and I'm not going to write a clean set just for that. Some people think you need a clean material to get far, and I mean, whatever. If I have a joke that's kind of clean, or I don't say fucking it or pussy or dick, then it happens.
Right. Yeah. No. I
have a potty mouth. I always have. I'm kind of a dirtbag, and I just I want to be me, and the F word slips out or shits or whatever, and I try not to put myself in those. But in your early days, you kind of have to take what you can get, so you work within those means, and that's a lot of what's happening now. And 4 years in, I can't wait until the next few years when I really blossom and I really feel like I can truly be me, or my writing's coming faster or better or whatever, and I can put longer bits together and make, I visualize those things coming and coming, well and working in my favor.
Do you feel supported by the comedy community that you have here currently?
The Madison comedy scene. Can I adjust this mic quick?
I
feel like it's
go for
it. Dropping down. Or I feel like an old lady. I'm like, I am kind of an old lady.
The
Madison comedy scene is really great. I mean, for number one, Madison has one of the best comedy clubs in the country. So just having that alone is going to, build a great community around it. And even in the few years I've been here, it's shifted and changed and gotten better. But the community in and of itself is incredibly supportive. I mean, maybe not everybody gets along perfectly, but by and large, it's incredibly supportive and communicative and fun. And
is there a lot of camaraderie, helping each other out, punching up jokes or?
Yeah, I mean, it gets tricky. People don't know how to tell other people. You know what I mean? Hey, you want a little tip on that joke? Yeah. Personally, for me, I love it. It tells me you think I'm worth it to give that note to, or so it can be tricky like that. But people definitely offer or are willing to.
In saying that, if another comedian offers a punch or to a joke as a tag or something, there's no credits at the end of a set. You don't say, hey, and I'd like to.
Oh, no, but everybody at the mic is going, I wrote that. I've done it. I've been like, I guarantee.
Yeah.
That joke's about me. Or other people joke about it on a local level, but you're also really happy to see that.
That person or
that person add that tag or add that thing. It's fun. So
it adds to the camaraderie between comedians, and it shows that you guys support each other. I think at least it seems that way.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, we kind of have to. It's a great community. Meaning, if anybody who's into anything, if you're into there are people who are way into pugs and they go to pug conventions or the pug park. Right,
we're talking about conventions here on the podcast.
I'm just saying, everybody's got their
pugs,
people.
Pugs specifically? Is pugs, that? I'm kind of caught up on this. I'm sorry.
No problem. There are Instagrams or conventions.
Just blew my mind.
I know, pugs.
Okay.
Pug life.
And you just said that on the podcast.
#pug life.
Right. Well,
but yeah, so it's so fucking fun to hang out with. I mean,
Yeah.
comics are so fucking annoying and
doing bits
we're
all the
assholes
time.
and we're depressed and we're shitheads.
Making fun of stuff. I'll be sitting in a diner or something, and I'll be with my family, but I'll always, I can't believe I'm saying this, but as soon as the waiter or whoever it is taking care of us walks away,
them.
I roast them.
Yeah.
Every time.
Good.
Roast them every
Keeps
time.
you sharp.
I'm doing voices.
You enjoy dinner
the whole
more.
Yeah.
Keeps you sharp.
Come on. Why not? Right?
She doesn't even know, or he, they don't even know that they're actually part of your dinner in a really significant way.
Yeah. And I don't leave tip to that asshole. Leave him out of there. Come on.
You're mean.
We all do shit jobs. Come on. I'm kidding. Come on. Don't write letters. Come on. Letters.
Letters. What's that? Yeah, no. So
Letters.
it is fun. I mean, it can be tricky because it's a lot of energy. You know, when people are, when we're out, getting ready to do a mic or a show or whatever, and people are talking, it's sometimes hard because you don't know if you're having a real conversation or not, or if somebody's just doing bits. Like it depends. But it's so fun, and comics love to talk about comedy.
Yes,
so you are never without, and we could do it for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours and days and days and days and hours and hours and hours, and so to have those people, it's fun. And the age ranges are just all over the board. Like everybody just sort of seems, when we're all together, whether I'm 43, whatever, I'm kind of the old lady in the scene, the childless MILF apparently, but I
add that take too. Let's add that as a hashtag. Everybody, there's a hashtag. Are you? Can you talk about the show that you helped produce, the Cabaret show?
Oh yeah, I don't help produce it. I 100%.
You 100%
created it.
You're the one who started it.
I started it. I do
cool.
all of the work for it. 100%.
Very cool.
The only thing that was given to me was the venue space.
Let's put it out there. What do you do?
Yeah. So when I quit my job, I started working at the Tip Top Tavern, which is a great bar restaurant. During that time, they were opening the North Street Cabaret, which is among a community of other businesses that are beloved in Madison. And because I was waiting tables at the Tip Top when they opened this new place, they were like, well, hey, you're a comic. Do you want to do the comedy night? And legit, like, this beautiful place basically fell on my lap.
It's not a tobacco shop.
It's not a tobacco shop, although. No. After hours, it's a whole different story. No, I'm just kidding. Can we edit that? No, so yeah, they were like, here's this wonderful venue. And I just had my 2-year anniversary there in January.
That's awesome.
So it was a big undertaking to be under 2 years doing stand-up when I was just trying to get on my feet and feel somewhat comfortable-ish doing it. I'm now plunged into
Are you
producing.
hosting the show?
I produce it. I host it. I do all the graphics for it. I flyer. I do press releases.
You're booking?
I'm booking. I'm doing all of that, and I'm being the little mom the night of the show. I hand make my own merch.
That's amazing. How often are you
It's
doing
once
that?
a month. It's every second Thursday of the month. There is not one in January here. I needed a post-holiday break, or I would have spent the entire Christmas break making posters and stuff. So
moving forward, that's actually very cool, because 4 years into comedy, you're able to you're getting along with other comedians, and you're meeting new people, and getting an opportunity to host your own show and produce your own show and put it together. That is the dream for any comedian.
It is a dream. And what's hard is that there are a lot of people who want to do something like that, but finding a venue that has all of the good requirements is tricky. So I absolutely lucked out with venue. And a lot of times that can be everything. And I am the opposite of taking it for granted, whatever that is. I adore the space.
No, wait. The opposite of taking it for granted is the opposite.
I bring it for granted. I'm just kidding.
The opposite of taking it for granted is what?
Is
the opposite of
honoring it.
Honoring. No.
That sounds cool.
Proud. You're proud.
I work my ass off to
Hey, we did it.
Well, right.
All right.
Are
words.
we proud? but yeah, so anyway, it's been an incredible experience. It's been good for me as a comic just to have opportunities to riff or be a host. Like, it's kind of a starting point for a lot of people to host, and it's also gotten me a lot of host gigs like that. That Yuli's Tobacco Shop. Like, a friend asked me to host in her place because she was at, and I don't mind being that. It gets you seen, gets you a little more stage time. You can do some crowd work. I am who I am as a host. I'm very Allie, and I think that's kind of been part of my brand. I'm just now sort of getting over the initial like, oh, I'm a dork, and just owning my dork.
Well, I said,
I'm a gushy host, and I'm nurturing, and I'm like, oh, I love these comics.
Awesome.
I just like, I book comics that I'm like, oh, I just really love you, and so
what character was that?
That was my excited. I don't know. So
Cartoon character somewhere. You're a voiceover artist.
You
could be.
Would love to be. It's too late. There are only like 5 people in the industry right now.
Jeez, they ruined it again. Well, so moving into the next few years for you, like we started the show talking about your watching your adventures on Instagram, and you kind of growing into who you are today. What does the next few years look like for Allie and Lindsay?
The next few years. That's a good one. I'm gonna.
Goals. Just what goals do you have?
Well, I'm.
Have you ever thought about like putting out an audio album or something of like a half hour or 15 minutes, or is that old school? Is that not happening
I don't think
anymore,
it's old school. I think I'm probably not
not
ready for it yet. Well, because then I have to say goodbye to that material. And being somebody who's like 4 years in, like I still need to pad.
Do you record your
pad
sets?
my set list? In case I need to do 45. If I give up 20, put it out in the airways, I can't use that 20 anymore, and I can't really afford to give away my.
Okay.
So I don't. That's why you never see clips of me online, even like, because I
it's like a treasure, and
I should Louis C.K. Well, scandal noted, but. But I'm just saying, like, Carlin, like the notion of, if I put it out there, or anybody who does a special, putting it out there. I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be a special, even if it was 5 minutes. Then you kind of have to scrap it, and I should definitely consider scrapping a few of my jokes that are probably overplayed. But but they're fun to do now because I know them so well, so I can like give more to them. So I'm like kind of enjoying some of my older material right now.
Why not?
So
do you ever do something that you've done before and then out of nowhere comes a new tag to it?
Sure.
Or a new idea to it?
Oh, definitely. I mean, some of the jokes that you said you saw me like 3 years ago. And that's the last time you saw me. I was like 6 months in. I'd still do a couple of those bits, but they're slightly evolved or probably just delivered
you're
better.
Sculpting. You're just kind of sculpting the edges a little bit. Yeah.
So obviously my goals are to write more, to become more true to me, to do more festivals, to open for more bigger comics, to travel. I want to. I mean, there's so many things.
Traveling.
I want to travel a lot. It's tricky. It's time consuming to do it alone. It's hard to book a tour, or even just pit stops, if you want to call it a tour. If you're going to do something small like that, is a huge undertaking. And
call it a tour.
And I mean, I would for social media for sure. Yeah,
well, that's what you're doing.
No, totally. So
even if you were going from the coffee shop down the block to the next coffee shop. So what?
And that's the thing. I love Yuli. I love these little shit shows, and not that Yuli's was a shit show, but as opposed to a club or a theater, which I also do like. But I love these small places. I love to be closer to my audience members, like to see their face. Like I enjoy this small weird space, especially if it's a little bizarro. Like I have to wrangle it. Like I kind of like it.
I get that 100%. I love comedy, live comedy the most when it's compressed in a smaller venue.
Yeah.
When I see these comedians go and do, and I've been to the shows where it's in a larger venue, a theater or performing arts center. And those shows, they're fine. They're good. It's fine, but there's nothing that beats live comedy in a club ever.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Agreed.
The energy in there. I watched Sinbad do a full set that seemed like he was just riffing the whole thing.
He does just riff the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, he doesn't riff.
Everyone was falling out of their chairs.
Oh my God.
And when the person on the other side of the room that you can see is laughing and you're laughing, you don't get that in a theater setting.
I'm getting a boner right now.
You know what I mean?
Hearing you talk about it, I get to do that.
Yeah, that's
incredible. I want to do it better.
It's incredible. Why not?
It's the funnest, coolest thing in the world. it's crazy to be able to say that I do the thing that I can say I think would be and is like the coolest fucking job in the world.
Why not?
Who else gets to say whatever?
Well, technically the First Amendment. So, there's that too, but whatever,
I also want to say quickly, I know we're getting to sort of the end of our time, but I just also started working with a local enterprise, terrible corny word
Enterprise.
called, I know, it's stupid, Lady Laughs Comedy, which was started by a woman named Dina Nina Martinez here in Madison, and I'm now her newest and only employee. We're getting ready to have, I'm getting ready to help her put on the 5th Lady Laughs Comedy Festival, which is in April 22nd through the 25th, and that is largely geared towards, I don't know when this is going to air. We have a big
headliner. End of
January.
This is coming out at the end of January.
Well, we have a big headliner that we've booked from. She was a part of a Netflix special this last year, but it hasn't been revealed out, so I won't say it now. But it's going to be a big one. So I also see myself working with Dina Nina and this Lady Laughs International thing.
Where can people go to follow that kind of thing?
You can go to Lady Laughs Comedy. There's a website. There's Facebook pages. There are Facebook pages for all of the festivals and all of the shows that they produced and teach classes here in Madison as well, intro to stand-up. And there are podcasts and other things affiliated. So I'm a part of that. I want to increase, my shows. I want to continue to do my own show, and then. But ultimately,
everyone should follow Allie on Instagram.
Yep.
And what's the other podcast that you're part of too?
I'm involved in 2 podcasts. One called Meanwhile, and the other one called Nobody Cares. Meanwhile just had its first episode, and Nobody Cares should be in a couple of weeks, and that's with comedians Nick Hart and Craig Smith, and so that'll be on all the sites. Soon. And Allie Lindsay, all the time, Allie Lindsay. I don't know why you just said that.
Allie Lindsay, all the time,
all the time, Allie Lindsay.
That's her new catchphrase. Just putting it out there, seeing how it goes. So if you like that, comment below.
Hashtag all the time.
What is it again? Allie Lindsay. Always Allie Lindsay.
Allie Lindsay all the time.
Oh, all the time. All right. Well, thanks, Allie, and this has been a great conversation.
Thank you so much, Tim. This is so fun. I feel like we could do this for a couple more hours.
Of course.
We scratch the surface, but
we did 2 other off camera, so those didn't get recorded.
We didn't even talk about how you got to see my boobs up close for a movie that we did 10 years ago.
That was
We're going to leave it on that.
All right. We'll see you later, everybody.
That footage. Bye.
Creative Side Up is an Edgeline Studios production. Thanks for listening, and we hope you join us again soon.